Hey guys, Jim here from DrinkABeerandPlayAGame. It's been a while since we looked at an indie title, so we're going to change that today with a look at a game called Kuso on the Nintendo Switch. Before I get started, I just want to give a big shout out to Fred Wood, the programmer of the game. He gave us a free code to take a look at the game, so what can I say? Free codes, we'll always take them. Thanks a lot, man. And here's the review. Originally published to Steam in November of 2017, this came out on the Switch in November of 2018. It was developed and published by Mokuzai Studio, programmed by Fred Wood, and the music was composed by James Bennett. This is an indie title, it was built from the ground up, it is a platformer, and while that kind of is it, there's a lot more here to unpack. When it comes to graphics, it is simple, yet deliberate. If there's one thing you can say about this game, the graphics do not get in the way of what you're supposed to do at all. A lot of the levels just compose of one base color, your player character is white, and really a lot of the things that can kill you, which is damn near most of the level, is also white. The background's just pure black, and with the exception of some levels have some really cool optical tricks and designs going on for the hazards, it's just a simple looking old school platformer. Do not think for a second that that is a bad thing. Just because the player character looks like something out of the Atari does not mean that this is a simple 8-bit game. It is really striking, everything looks smooth, the animation is nice and smooth in the game itself, and there's really nothing to take away from it. Just the scope of the size of the levels compared to your character is gigantic, but the way it's framed on the screen's pretty much perfect in my mind. Now, would I like to see some more nuanced kind of stuff? Sure, but luckily as the levels go on, the overall feel and design of the stages themselves start to feel almost more organic, or more weirdly Earth-like or creature-like. It's tough to explain, but if you see a level like this, and then you see a level like this, you kinda know what I mean. The music in the game is really good. As far as sound effects go, you don't really get a lot outside of straight up dying or, well, really it's just dying. There's not a lot of sound effects in the game at all. But the music is where it's at. Sure, it does the same thing that a lot of these 8-bit throwback retro games do, where it combines like an 8-bit sound, but it's mostly almost straight up a pure techno kind of driving beat that powers every level. And you get almost a unique song for almost every single level. I know with the original Love game, there was 12 songs for 16 levels, so in this game, it's almost level to level where you have original music for the stages. And I only say that because I haven't fully beaten the game yet, but from the little bit I've been able to see, I've seen different songs every time, and everything's just been well composed. It might not be your particular style, and I'll be honest with you, nothing's stuck in my head after playing it, but what you have is perfect background noise. When it comes to control, it's again extremely simple. The B button's how you jump, the A button is how you set a checkpoint, and the X button will kill you and set you back to your last checkpoint. And besides having either analog stick or D-pad control built in, that's it. So you don't really need anything too special, you don't need it too fancy. This game gives you everything you need to complete it. Even besides the overall simplicity of the control scheme, it's just the fact that it controls really well in general. It has a nice, there's almost no real input lag. As you hit everything, it just does what you want it to. The control of the game itself might be a little bit on the slippery side, but it's almost overly precise. But considering how precise you have to be with your jumps, you have to be just as precise as the hazards in the game. It does not hold your hand. But all that aside, control, damn near perfect. When it comes to gameplay, when I tell you it's a platformer, I mean that this is a platformer. The goal of each level is to get to the end of the level and escape. Now, in order to do that, you have to go through so many different hazards. You have to make time jumps, you have things falling on you, you have giant razor blades, you have spikes that can kill you, lights that can kill you, flames that can kill you. Everything in the friggin' level is going to try and kill you. And that's besides just the death pits that you can easily fall into. What's the saving grace, you ask? Well, that comes in the checkpoint system, because you can manually drop a checkpoint wherever the hell you want. Outside of being in the way of a direct hazard which will kill your checkpoint, you can just, if you get to a safe little landing spot to get a breather, drop a checkpoint, and you can try as many times as you want to keep going through the level. You're going to get to certain points where you're going to be dropping checkpoints like every 3 seconds, just to have that little bit of extra cushion for you. Also, if you're stuck in a certain part, or you see yourself falling to a death, or you just fall back to the beginning of the level, You can always kill yourself and go back to your last checkpoint too to avoid doing a lot of repeat and, wasting a lot of time basically. Now you might be asking yourself, won't this make the game too easy? And the answer is luckily no, because of the different gameplay styles. You can play unlimited mode, which just lets you play the entire game straight through. You can play the normal mode basically, which gives you a set number of lives, and it gives you 125 lives to get through as much of the game as you want, and it'll score you at the end based on how fast you get through the levels, how many levels you compete, and how many checkpoints you drop. So if you're dropping checkpoints left and right, it might make it easier to get through levels, but you know what? Your score is going to suffer. Then there's a very hard mode where they give you even less lives and you have to do the same thing again. So it's even more stringent with the grading, and as you can see by my scores, I'm pretty terrible at these. This is a game that just truly rewards memorization and quick reflexes and just overall skill. There's also a speedrun mode, so if you're a speedrun kind of fanatic and you think you can just blow through these levels, well, you can do it, and it has a built-in speedrun community, so for people who like that kind of stuff, this is a game for you. There's also a 2-player mode where locally you can just run through the levels to see who can get through it faster, so as far as, a couch local kind of gameplay goes, you can't ask for much better than that. When it comes to originality, this is a direct sequel to 2014's Love, which luckily is now included in the game, so if you're buying it at this point, you get both Love and Kuso for a very good bargain of $5 friggin'. Overall, you get 41 stages to go through, and the level designs are, I'll say they're pretty much brilliant. Like, I love the little tricks and the little hazards that he threw in there. How some levels reward a lot of trial and error, some are purely about timing, and some will just combine all of your skills into one to get through the hazards. And when it comes to replayability, it's like I said, get 41 levels, there's hidden secrets and collectibles, a lot of which I sure as hell have not found yet. You get some 2-player options, and you get all the gameplay modes I talked about before. If you just want to play the levels, you can play the levels, and if you want to really challenge yourself, you can really challenge yourself. And remember before when I said you get 125 levels in what's basically normal mode? Well, you can blow through that lightning fast. So do not think that just because you have that many lives, you're going to blow through the game, because you will not. You will have to replay this again and again to even have a chance at beating the normal mode the way it was intended. When it comes to beer, this is one of those games that, man, it really requires you to be on your toes and just to have lightning quick reflexes, so I almost can't recommend beer if you're looking to just blow through the game or to really concentrate on the speed running and the limited lives levels. But if you just want a platform to dick around with and sit back with, why not just enjoy something that'll stick on your tongue, because you might get so lost in the game, you're going to forget about going back to your beer at times. So drink something that's good warm, because your beer might become warm and has a long-lasting flavor on the tongue. When it comes to beer recommendation, I'm going to go with the Founders Brewing Breakfast Stout. It is a double chocolate coffee oatmeal stout. All of those things are stuff that will just stick to your tongue. It gives you a great mouthfeel, a ton of flavor, and you can take a sip, sit there, get lost in the game, and always come back to that beer that's going to be sitting there. And with an 8.3% alcohol by volume, if you have multiple, you're going to get a pretty nice buzz out of it. But if you take it nice and slow and even have one or two, you'll be nice and calm, and it might actually calm your nerves in order to get better at this game. So, at the end of the day, what do I think of Kuso? It's a pretty damn good game. If you're a fan of straight-up platformers, this is going to be right up your alley. It's simple, it's to the point, it's kind of bare bones, but overall it sets out to do one thing and it does it really well. It gives you a nice, challenging platformer that really, depending on your skill level, anyone can play thanks to all the gameplay options that they're given in here. When I last talked to Fred, he said he needed about another 500 sales before the game was profitable for him, and for $5, it's worth taking a flyer on. Even if you have some leftover change or some e-credits sitting around, make it cheaper for yourself, but give the guy a sale. He deserves it. Now, if you don't like challenging platformers or platformers in general, obviously there's no reason for you to pick this up. But if you're looking for something a little different and will really test your chops and a game that you can just learn at your own pace, I think it's a good plug-and-play kind of game thanks to the save feature. So, really, it's up to you how you want to play it. $5, you can do so much worse for $5. So, I say go out, give it a shot, and hopefully you enjoy it. I mean, it comes with the original game Love as well, so there's a good amount of content here. And depending on your playstyle, you could keep coming back to it again and again. So that'll do it for today, guys. As always, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, leave a comment below. Let me know if there's some other platformers, indie titles on the Switch that are definitely worth checking out. And as always, check out the links below to our Patreon for some exclusive content. And we are the home of the Power Hour podcast, which is also on iTunes. Till next time, guys. Cheers.